Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. They are small in size and are a car thief's best friend. They're totally legal and cheap, and you're going to want to check your car for it after a day of holiday shopping. But first, we start tonight with a story I'll admit that I had not been that interested in. And I'll tell you why I've had a change of heart in a moment. It's a story that I thought that the left-leaning media was spending way too much time on. Former Trump aide Steve Bannon being charged with contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena issued by the January 6th committee. MSNBC and CNN spending hours on countdowns until Congress voted to hold him in contempt. And then when the Justice Department decided to formally indict him, more never-ending breaking news. And then again, when he turned himself in, breaking news, breaking. I wasn't that interested in it for two reasons. Number one, it seemed to me that Bannon had no real legal argument and that, of course, he's going to be convicted. And number two, that he was clearly trying to run out the clock until after the 2022 midterms, when the January 6th Commission may get disbanded with a new Republican Congress in power. Now, that wouldn't change the criminal case per se, but it could change the environment. But nothing that groundbreaking. Now, it does seem the case is moving forward. This week, the judge set a trial date of July 18th. And of course, the reason that Steve Bannon doesn't want to testify is obvious. Among other things, he doesn't want to have to answer for these comments he made on his podcast the day before the attack on the Capitol. His attorneys are going to argue that his communications with then President Trump are protected under what's called executive privilege. Now, so far, the former president's efforts to keep his communications private have failed, with a federal appeals court in Washington ruling yesterday that Trump cannot invoke the privilege. But here's the thing. Even if the executive privilege argument were to be upheld, Steve Bannon wasn't even working in the White House on January 6th. At least people like Mark Meadows and others who are claiming executive privilege are actually in the West Wing that day. Bannon's argument always seemed preposterous to me. But then I saw that a serious law professor thinks Bannon has a serious legal argument. And I was interested. Since we like to present all sides of stories here, we welcome Jonathan Schaub, a law professor at the University of Kentucky, who recently told the National Law Journal it's not a slam dunk for the Department of Justice, despite what I think the popular narrative is, because proving a criminal contempt charge is much more difficult than proving that you're correct on the constitutional question of executive privilege. You have to show that Bannon had criminal intent. Professor, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. So explain your argument to me.
Well, I will say I am not pushing a narrative that Bannon is going to win. And I want to be clear that I agree with most of the things that you were saying. But I think people are giving a little bit of short shrift to the ambiguities that are inherent in executive privilege. And part of that is because the courts have just very rarely weighed in, and because the executive branch has, over time, sort of expanded this doctrine further and further, largely in response to congressional requests for information, so that a person like Bannon, who was a private citizen at the time, and there is a sort of natural reaction that, oh, he's a private citizen, executive privilege does not apply. But there is actually precedent within the Department of Justice that says executive privilege doesn't have to be limited to executive branch officials. It's an opinion about the firing. President Bush fired a number of U.S. attorneys. There were documents that were requested by Congress. President Bush asserted privilege. Some of the conversations at issue were with people outside of the executive branch. And the opinion noted that the rationale for executive privilege is to provide the president advice about constitutional duties. And if a president decides to get advice from a private citizen about those official duties, then the same rationale should apply to protect privilege. Now, what I've written is that Bannon almost certainly was not advising the president about his official duties, but the committee has this very broad subpoena, and we don't know for sure, right? We don't know what he was talking to the president about. Right. And so he's going to claim sort of this was all conversations about the president and what he should do with the electoral count, and this should be protected.
And isn't there a concern, though, that in effect his argument is, well, I'm just relying on my lawyers. My lawyers are telling me that I shouldn't go, I shouldn't respond, I don't have to, et cetera. I mean, it does seem that you can take that to its absurd point, right? And anyone could claim about anything. Well, you know, I'm being told not to show up by my lawyers, so I'm not going to show up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that defense doesn't work when the law is clear about a particular obligation, or there's a clear criminal law. The problem here is that contempt of Congress is it's untested with respect to executive privilege, and his claims of privilege, though I think incredibly weak because of this idea of official acts and because he was a private citizen and all the things that people talk about, they aren't clear. And so there is no clear answer that says he is not eligible for any type of privilege. And so the Department of Justice in prosecuting is going to have to sort of prove beyond the reasonable doubt that he knew what he was, knows he doesn't have a defense, and that he's still defying Congress. I do think he's made it easier for them. Oh,
right.
ahead,
I mean, I was going to say, isn't his weakest argument that he just didn't show up at all? I mean, I thought the idea of executive privilege is supposed to be you go, they ask you a question, you say, I'm invoking executive privilege, and I'm not going to answer your question, and then it gets litigated. Instead, Bannon is just saying, I'm not going to show up at all, which does seem to me to help the intent argument that he's doing this on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bannon has made it much easier on the Department of Justice to prove contempt by this sort of total defiance and by sort of making himself a martyr, you know, going full, not complying at all, you know, just blowing off the committee. And privilege, normally you would show up and you would assert privilege in response to specific questions. And there are things that the committee would want to ask him about that are clearly not privileged, you know, conversations with people other than the president, for example, with private citizens. So there's no claim of privilege, no even plausible claim there. So by not showing up at all, and if you read the indictment, the way that the Department of Justice wrote the indictment, it actually sort of avoids the question of privilege altogether by saying you didn't comply. Even if you had a privilege claim, you had to show up and assert it. So I think he's actually made the prosecution easier on them in that way. Right. Although he does make this one argument about, it's a very in the weeds legal argument, that he doesn't have to show up because a lawyer for Trump wasn't going to be permitted to be there, which is an argument that the Department of Justice has made in the past. But generally, the case is much stronger because he didn't show up at all.
And real quick, I'm almost out of time here, but you know, this idea of him waiting it out till after 2022, right, when the January 6th committee could be disbanded, won't impact his case, right? I mean, people keep saying, well, he's going to wait it out, and I think that's true. He is going to wait it out, and he's going to hope the environment is different. But as a practical legal matter, the Department of Justice would still move forward with its criminal contempt, right?
Right, yeah. Unlike Trump, who can try to play it out in civil suit, this is a criminal prosecution. He's already in violation of the statute. So they're going to continue with the prosecution unless there's a new attorney general who decides not to.
Right. All right, Professor Shaw, interesting stuff. I think it's important that we discuss these things and we not just sort of summarily dismiss things and say that it's all absurd, because I was the one saying it was all absurd. And then I'm like, wait, Professor Shaw is telling me it's not absurd. So I want to hear I want to listen to what's going on. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Now, to be clear, if Leah Thomas can get back to the numbers she swam before her transition, she likely could compete and win in the Olympics. Her times before her transition were faster than arguably the greatest female swimmer of all time, Katie Ledecky. Now, look, my take on this is I support her choice and anyone's choice to choose their gender. But when it comes to sports, it clearly isn't random that she's doing so much better as a woman than she did as a man. This isn't about some manufactured, bathroom debate. It seems to me it's about basic fairness. Men are faster, they're bigger, they play more sets in professional tennis than do women. So from a reasonable perspective, can't you support transgender rights and still believe that when it comes to sports, it's different? Joining me to help answer that, my former colleague, Dawn Ennis, a transgender advocate a professor at the University of Hartford and the sports editor at the Los Angeles Blade. Dawn, great to see you again. Long time. So
Long time
tell me,
no
what
see.
am I?
Hi, Dan.
What am I getting wrong here?
Well, first thing is that trans women aren't men. I agree with you that it's unfair that any woman should have to compete against men. We don't want men in our bathrooms. We don't want men to compete against women. But trans women aren't men. Trans girls aren't boys. And the other thing you got wrong, Leah got all those records. She smashed them, as she put it. She also finished 5th in an individual event. She was also part of a relay team. They finished 4th. So trans people don't always win. But the thing is, journalists like yourself in the mainstream media often only focus on what they win and never the fact that they lose just as much. It just doesn't make sense.
But that doesn't. Right, but that doesn't seem to me to prove much, right? Just because someone isn't great, man, woman, whatever they are, that they're not as good, it doesn't mean, of course, that somehow because you're trans, you're going to be better. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that there is. Okay, well, let me be clear. I'm not. What I'm asking is, it does seem clear that there can be a biological advantage in sports. There's a reason when people are born as men, right? That, as I pointed out, they play more sets of tennis. They can run faster. They are stronger. This idea of just taking 1 year of reducing testosterone, if you look at specifically this case, it seems that Leah has an advantage. But it seems to me you're saying I'm misreading it.
Here's what I'll say. As someone who's covered sports for a long time, I used to be the managing editor of Outsports. I'm now the sports editor at the LA Blade. Sports is all about advantage. I think your question really is it an unfair advantage? I think every team, every athlete wants to find that advantage. I don't disagree that men have traditionally have stronger bones, have better cardiovascular, and that their performance levels usually exceed that of most women. But testosterone isn't the only factor. Matter of fact, the Olympic Committee just basically said we can't depend on testosterone as the only factor to determine whether someone is eligible to compete or not. So rather than focus on the NCAA rules, which, by the way, Leah Thomas followed every rule. The rule says she can compete, she's eligible. I think what you're arguing is we should change the rules.
Yeah, I am. I'm arguing. Well, I don't know if I'm arguing I change the NCAA rules per se, because I don't know enough about how the science. Right? I'm not well steeped enough in knowing a year. Right? No, and I'm admitting that. Right? I'm admitting I don't know. Should it be a year? Should it be 2 years? Should it be not at all? What I'm saying is that it does seem that in sports, and specifically and only when we're talking about sports, that being born a man, in particular someone like this who competed on the men's team for this many years, right, and then transitions and begins to compete as a woman, that there's got to be some sense that there's a fairness question there.
I guess the big question would be, do you think separate but equal is legal and is appropriate? Because I remember there was this thing called the Negro League, where people said, well, it wouldn't be fair to have Negroes playing with white men. And of course, that's BS, right? So we eliminated
because there's
that.
no, right. Because we know, science, of course, that any biological argument distinguishing blacks and whites is nonsense. That's not the case with men and women. That's not the case with men and women.
But trans women aren't men. And in addition to the testosterone that we're talking about, that so many people seem to focus on, let's remember that if you decide, well, it's not fair to the cisgender women, cisgender meaning not trans, okay?
Yep.
It's not fair to cisgender girls and women for trans females to compete. Well, then what's fair for them? Why isn't sport a human right, as the UN declared? What would you do with these folks? You'd have to put them in a separate category. And how, again, would that not be discrimination? This is the problem we have. The other problem, Dan, is that science really isn't really weighed in on this. We've had studies of men versus women. So we know men are stronger than women, generally.
Right.
We haven't had any studies about elite trans athletes versus elite cisgender female athletes. We need to have this research.
All right,
there's a woman,
can you at least,
Joanna Harper, who's working on that.
Can you at least keep open to the idea that maybe based on how they were born biologically, that maybe it's unfair?
I would say this. I personally was the worst athlete in the world. I used to be, the kid on the bench. I would be in the outfield praying, please don't hit the ball to me. So I'm not an athlete, but I love sports. And sports is all about team building. It's all about giving it your best. It's all about being included. And if we decide
not at the elite level, not at the elite level, not at the elite level.
Well, at the elite level, you only get there because you started, because someone nurtured you. I'm just afraid that because 10 states have already decided this issue, 10 states have said that trans girls shouldn't be able to compete with cisgender girls, their science isn't there. And as far as the elite level goes, I would say that the biological advantage has to be proven. Let's see the science,
all right,
and then we can come back to that.
All right.
And by the
I'll
way,
leave it at
as far as
that.
Katie Ledecky
Because
goes,
you know what?
Katie Ledecky still has a faster record. In the 1650, Katie was 15:03:31.
Look, she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, so I
and
get
Leah
it.
Thomas is going to be amazing too at the Olympics or wherever.
But it sounds to me, Dawn, I'm going to make this the final word because we got to go, that when I read between the lines and what you're saying, that you kind of agree with me, but you can't quite admit it now. But I mean that in terms of the biological advantage. You're saying the science isn't there. I think you'd agree with me that if the science comes back, we'd both be surprised if it turns out that I'm not right. I'll give you the final word.
I appreciate that. I would be the first person to say that trans athletes should not compete with cisgender athletes if you can prove to me that trans athletes are always superior. The problem is they're not. The reason I brought up the losing thing is because they often lose, because they're part of humanity. We're human.
Yeah,
that's it, Dan.
I got it. But the losing to me doesn't prove anything. I said I'd give you the last word, so I got to shut up. Dawn Ennis, great to see you again. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
How many times have we heard this old chestnut? It's the economy, stupid. But is the economy going well? Even that basic question has become politicized by the media. Up next. Time now for our Mediaite Moments, where we check in on the day's bias, buzz, and bull in the world of cable news and beyond. The midterm election's getting closer, which means one thing. We will begin to hear the same analysis we hear every 2 years.
It's the economy, stupid.
It's the economy, stupid, obviously.
It's the economy, stupid.
It's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. It will always be the economy, stupid.
Whether in its broadest sense, the economy is strong or weak, it seemed like a fairly objective question. But of course, it's not. Here's how President Biden characterized it.
All told, in the first 10 full months of my administration, the economy has created 6 million jobs, a record for a new president. This is a significant improvement from when I took office in January.
All right, jobs are an important factor, and the numbers may be accurate. But economist and former Trump cabinet member Larry Kudlow thinks the focus should be elsewhere.
By the by, the latest Wall Street Journal poll shows inflation is the #1 problem in America today, and voters blame Joe Biden.
So maybe it's that the folks in the financial media see the problems that those of us who don't study it as closely as them are, missing. Well, a leading voice, of course, is CNBC's Jim Cramer.
The economy's a juggernaut now, and we can accept the fact that we have to have rate increases and not kill the market.
So wait, the economy's a juggernaut. Then maybe that's our answer, or maybe it just depends on where you get your news.
Where are we today? Well, we have high inflation, high unemployment, a stagnant economy.
I am so confused.
I think that we could go to a period where we have an economic boom not unlike post-World War I.
So many different answers, depending on where you watch. And look, it does seem Cramer's talking the broader economy, and some of the Fox folks are talking about particular areas of concern, and both may be true. But if you're looking for someone to explain the conflicting messages in the most helpful way possible to President Biden, look no further than, of course, MSNBC.
The economy is significantly better than it was, and President Biden's poll numbers aren't much higher than...
Because he hasn't gotten the message out.
The messaging, the old chestnut trotted out by every administration, blame the media. But which media to blame? That is our wrap-up of the day's Media Bias Buzz and the Bull. Coming up, Christmas coming early for car thieves, all thanks to a little wireless device, cheap and readily available, and it can help them know exactly where you drive home to or where you are after a big purchase. Coming up next. Welcome back. Imagine this scenario. You decide to go Christmas shopping at your local mall. You park your car in the lot, head in, do some shopping. But unbeknownst to you, someone has put a tracking device on your car. When you go home later, they follow you home, steal your car. That's what's been happening in a suburb of Toronto. Since September, a rash of car thefts have stumped investigators until recently. Local police announced last week that these thieves are hiding Apple AirTags on these cars and using the $29 coin-sized tracker and an iPhone to remotely tail the cars from public parking lots and malls back to their victims' driveways. Later, they head to the house and break into the car, where they then program their own keys using an electronic device typically used by mechanics. Authorities here expect it will happen as well. As for Apple and any other company that makes tracking tags like these, this just raises more questions about the security of their latest product. Not long after the AirTags were released this past April, Apple had to issue an update after a number of writers raised the alarm that the device made it, quote, frighteningly easy to effectively stalk someone without their knowledge, despite iPhones being able to detect and warn people about unwanted trackers. Now, we reached out to Apple for comment on this story, and Apple pointed us to its security measures that alert iPhone users to strange AirTags when they arrive at specific addresses like their home or workplace. They pointed to audio alerts the tags emit after being separated from their owners for between 8 and 24 hours. They say they'll release an Android app that will allow non-iPhone users to detect unwanted AirTags in their vicinity by the end of the year. But I don't understand this stuff enough. So joining me now is Heather Kelly, tech reporter and resident AirTags expert for The Washington Post. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. All right. Absolutely. Apple says that they're addressing the security issue with AirTags. What exactly are they doing, and are they doing enough?
So early on, right when these came out, they actually moved really fast to add something. I spent a lot of time like dinging Apple for things, but they did something fast to prevent it from being used as often as a stalking device. It does two things. As you mentioned, it'll bing. Like you'll hear a ding. Why is something dinging near me? Oh, I'm going to go look for a tracker. And then the other thing it does is if you have an iOS device and there is a tracker that's not yours that appears to be following you around, you'll get a push alert. Now, if you're on an Android phone, you'll get nothing. So that is something they are working on. But right now, if you're an Android user, you don't really have that much you can do about it.
And again, to be clear, if you are an Apple user, do you have to actually install something? Do you have to enable something on your phone to allow you to get this?
So Find My is one of those built-in apps that just kind of comes with the phone. You already use it if you've lost, your computer or another device that shows you where it is. So it's absolutely built in. There's no extra steps that you have to take. But when it comes out for Android users, they will have to go out of their way to install an app just for this.
Any other tips for people to safeguard against unwanted tracking?
Absolutely. So, one interesting thing about this, and maybe it's just me, it is a small percentage of car thefts, and it's very over-engineered. If I was going to steal a car, these are cars that have been left in driveways. They don't have, the club is one of those classic things that I have my car stolen a lot, so I'm an expert on the club. And then apparently there's a lock you can put so that...
The club, wait a sec. The club is so 1980s. Come on, you're not actually suggesting that the club is going to be the great protector here, right?
It's an extra step. Although, again, my last car was stolen with a club, so I'm not exactly the best example for this. But it can help. You can have a kill switch. But for these luxury vehicles, there's a little lock you can put over the port that they're using to hack your car and start it. You're not going to be able to hear the ding. They're hiding this device somewhere underneath the car. So if you're an iOS user, do look out for an alert. But they're going to move pretty fast. I feel like these things are going to happen within that like 12-hour window when it first happens.
Do you think that Apple should have better predicted that stuff like this was going to happen?
I mean, Apple is actually really late to this market, right? Tile has been out for a really long time. You could always track your Apple devices in a similar way. I do think they should have thought about the stalking situation more. This particular one, I'm not sure what they can do. People aren't going to stop making these. And as of now, they do more than Tile does to try and alert people when an AirTag is following you around.
We were just showing a picture on the video of like a teddy bear. Do you know why? That one. Why is that? What is that about?
You don't lose your teddy bear frequently?
I don't know why it's. I mean, again, I'm parading my ignorance here in not knowing why that video is relevant to the ad. No?
No clue at all. In fact, Apple goes out of its way to say, do not use these on children or pets.
Okay.
So I don't know why that's in there. But people are doing that anyways, funnily enough. They're putting them on dog collars. They're putting them in their kids' backpacks or on their bikes.
Yeah, I guess it's so when your kid loses their stuffed animal that you can go find it. And I will say, as a parent of some young kids, I often have to find items around the house. So maybe that's what it's about. But just as we were chatting, it struck me that there were all these sort of like high-tech Apple things, and then suddenly there was a teddy bear. So anyway, Heather Kelly, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
Coming up on this show, we are dedicated to trying to help find missing children. Every Friday, we do it. Kids like Samaria. She's just 14. Her mom says she ran away from home. She's desperate for answers. We want to help bring Samaria home. How you can help, coming up next. Welcome back. Each Friday here on the show, we ask for your help to find a missing child. This week, we focus on Samaria Beckett, 14-year-old from Forest Hills, New York. Samaria was last seen on October 13th. She was at home with her family in the afternoon and apparently just vanished. At this point, police say there have only been unconfirmed sightings. Samaria's 5'7", brown hair and brown eyes. Joining me now is Angeline Hartman, Media Director for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Angeline, thanks for coming on the show. Walk us through Samaria's disappearance.
Well, Dan, to get a full picture, let's start a little bit before her disappearance. As you mentioned, Samaria is 14 years old now. But her mom and I talked for a long time today, and she said, you know, Samaria has been a great kid. She listens, she does well in school. This was pre-pandemic, right? They have no issues with her. Then the pandemic hits, and that's when they start to see a change. Because what happened then, Dan? Families stayed home, right? Kids start going to school virtually, and they're locked inside pretty much. And so mom attributes this is where mom starts to see a change in her. So it starts there, and eventually she starts to say, hey, you know, I want to run to the store really quick by myself. I want to do this really quick by myself. So at this point, during the pandemic, they realized that Samaria is starting to connect with her friends virtually, like everybody is doing. She's going to school virtually, but she's also connecting with strangers virtually, Dan. And so they figure that out. They start to have problems, and they've been dealing with this on an ongoing basis, right? So then in October, she says really quickly, I'm going to run to the store. Yeah, Dad's somewhere else at home, and he realizes, where's Samaria? And mom says, well, she just went to the store. And it's like, hey, I'm going to follow her out to the store because this is not feeling right. You know, he's been worried this whole time. There wasn't that long of a gap. And Dad goes out there, doesn't see her. And so that was, mid-October. And ever since then, Dad has been out there night and day with posters, and it's been very tough because they know what's been happening online and they're very worried. And, Dan, we've
Angela,
talked about this over and over again. This is something we're seeing a lot.
we were talking about unconfirmed sightings. What does that mean?
Right. Well, the parents have been getting messages like we've seen before through social media. I've seen your daughter. She might be in this location. She looks familiar. She might be over here. And so dad's following up on those leads. Those leads aren't real-time leads. They are possibilities of, I've seen her, a couple of weeks ago, this and that. So they're unconfirmed, It's been tough, but it's important to follow up on those leads. But, we've also talked about before how parents can be targets in situations like this. You just don't know, especially on social media. People are contacting this family left and right for various reasons.
It sounds like, her dad is the kind of dad everyone wants to have, right? I mean, this sounds like a dad is willing to do anything to find his daughter.
Really? Yeah. And, he said today to me, he is so exhausted and so worried, so tired. He's starting to make, mistakes. He's out there. He's gone to all the boroughs. He said just this week, he printed hundreds of flyers, right? He's gone everywhere, handing them out, posting them. And then he took a second and looked at the poster he printed, and he realized there's wrong information printed on there. And somehow there was information that had the family's personal information. And, he didn't want that out there. So he backtracked, Dan, and picked up all these hundreds of posters. Now he's backtracking, going the other way. It's been so tough for them, so tough. And, mom is dealing with some medical issues at home. This family's going through a lot. So they have had very little media attention. So they're very grateful, once again, for you calling attention to this, because she needs it. I got to remind people, she's 14 years old.
Yeah. Angeline, thank you. It's important stuff. I'm sure they appreciate you as well. If you have any information on Samaria's disappearance, contact 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. Coming up, a man with a machete at an LA bus station refusing to put his weapon down, even taunting officers to shoot him. Retired LAPD police sergeant standing by to talk about this unbelievable body cam video up next. Tonight, we are on scene with the Los Angeles Police Department as officers try to get a man armed with a machete to surrender. Now, before we show you the body cam video, this is a 911 call from a transit official as the man sat on a parked bus.
I'm calling a report. We have an operator reporting that there is a man that has entered the bus and he's carrying a machete.
What's the location?
The location is Canoga and Sherman Way. It's on our orange line. He's not brandishing the weapon, but he is carrying a machete.
Okay, so he's not threatening anyone with it, right?
He's sitting in the back of the bus with a machete.
Pon el cuchillo abajo en el piso. Nada más ponlo en el piso.
Police found the man who claimed to be part of the gang MS-13 standing at a bus stop with a weapon in his hand. An officer started giving him instructions in Spanish, telling him to drop the machete.
Señor, pon el cuchillo en el piso. Nada más ponlo en el piso. Yo hablo español. ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Puedes poner el cuchillo en el piso? ¿Por qué? Yo quiero platicar de aquí. ¿Qué pasó? Mira, te voy a decir otra vez. Te voy a decir, si nos pegamos con con lo que se llama el 40 mil, si te pega, te va a doler y te puede causar mucho dolor. Te lo estoy diciendo ahorita. Pero no te queremos pegar. Baja el cuchillo.
The talks went on for more than 6 minutes, with the man even encouraging officers to shoot him. As he walked toward a busy road, officers used beanbag guns and rubber bullets to get him to drop the weapon.
Man, if you got a shot, take it, because otherwise, once he starts going...
Okay, beanbag ready! Let me hit him. Vamos, baja el cuchillo. Baja el machete, Diamond. Baja el machete, Diamond. Baja el machete, ponlo en el piso. Diamond, baja el machete. Diamond.
There we go. Hold on.
The man was hit with beanbags and rubber bullets. He eventually dropped the machete and surrendered to police. He was treated for an injury to his right hand. He was placed under a 72-hour mental health evaluation, but was not arrested. The incident remains under investigation. Joining me now is retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Sergeant, thanks for coming back on the show. Appreciate it. What I really liked about watching this was the use of non-lethal, right? We always sort of tend to show these sorts of things, and then something really bad happens, right? And in this case, something really bad didn't happen because they were using non-lethal.
So this is an example of officers had time on their side. There was distance between them and the suspect with the machete. Thankfully, the suspect never tried to close that distance. And so officers were able to deploy tactically, give commands, give him an opportunity, should he desire, to comply to those commands. And then when he didn't, use the less than lethal force rather than resorting to deadly force, which is what we're taught and trained to do. You use deadly force only as a last resort. And clearly these officers had other options.
The negotiator talked to the man for more than 6 minutes. Let me play some of that again.
Tell him we're here. We don't want to hurt him.
Mira, no
te
queremos hacer nada, pero haznos el favor y pon el cuchillo abajo.
To give him the warning, if he's going to get hit with a beanbag, it's going to cause serious injury.
Si no bajas el cuchillo abajo, te podemos dar con este, te podemos caer con este.
Again, one of the things that I appreciated watching this was the concern about the language barrier, right? That in a lot of instances, if someone doesn't speak English or doesn't speak English well, you don't always have an officer who can speak that language. But here you did, and I think that was critical in diffusing the situation.
Well, you know, one of the things that we were taught even when I went through the academy, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, were a few sentences to disarm someone, or a command to be given in the event that you run into a Spanish speaker. And so while you may not be proficient in another language, Spanish, you certainly could utter a word or two to say, drop the knife, stop, don't move. And in this instance, they did not want to allow him to get around others because you don't know what he's going to do possessing this machete. Sometimes, you know, we see people who are engaging what we refer to as suicide by cop. Mental illness is a problem and a concern, and we don't always have the benefit of trying to freeze frame and call a medical professional. Thankfully, these officers had less than lethal. There was a supervisor, a sergeant there on scene who was managing this use of force that was about to happen, and it ended the way it should.
I've only got a minute left, but I know a lot of people are going to ask this question, which is, well, why don't they use a less than lethal more often then?
You use what's available. And obviously, they were able to have some officers respond quickly with less than lethal. If they didn't have that, they would have had to either tangle up with this guy, you don't want to do, he's got a machete, or use deadly force.
Yeah. Sergeant Dorsey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And again, a reminder, one of the reasons that we are showing these videos on this show so regularly is to show you some of the decisions that police officers have to make every day. And sometimes they end up in difficult situations, and sometimes they end up just like this did, where you can use something like non-lethal. The guy can end up surrendering, and he can end up with an injury on his right hand. Police work, police doing their jobs well. Something we don't see enough of in the media and on television. That does it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. News Nation Prime starts right now. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.